Welcome back to The Line. Albuquerque Police Department spokesman Simon Drobic was the highest paid city employee in 2018, and the Civilian Police Oversight Agency, or CPOA, is recommending he be dismissed after an investigation into his overtime pay. His whopping total pay last year was just shy of $193,000. The oversight group says the high amount was due in large part to overtime pay earned through policy violations. The CPOA investigation states that Mr. Drobic violated policy more than 50 times by getting paid both for being on call as a spokesman and working what's called, quote, chief's overtime at local businesses. And Ed Perea, you're a former police officer. We appreciate your being here to talk about this. What do you make of this investigation and the agency's recommendations? Do they fall in line with your thoughts on this?
Well, I can't speak to the specifics of the investigation, even the recommendations, because I haven't been privy to that.
Fair enough.
But this issue isn't anything new.
Okay.
It will recycle itself, every few years.
Okay.
So we have to take a step back and not to focus on the officer. The officer ultimately has to be held accountable. There's no question about it. But there's this bigger problem that maybe we need to look at, systematically. What is taking place that allows this to occur?
In your view, what is that, and what needs to change? What is that system as it stands now? What's your problem with it, and what could we do about it?
I think it's all about the oversight. There has to be a system in place that will flag these higher than average overtime pay that these officers are able to work. And so I think we have to take a step back, look at the past first of all, and look at what we've done in the past. In the past, say for example, the PIO role, and the PIOs work very hard.
Sure.
They spend a lot of time working with the media, and they have a very important function in communicating with the citizenry on what's going on in our community. However, in the past, the PIO wasn't the main source of that information.
Right.
The department had a policy that allowed watch commanders and area commanders and supervisors to be the face and the voice of what was happening in the local communities. And that would be one way to really reduce the amount of overtime pay. You have to look at resources, $292,000. How many other part-timers might you be able to hire? Or maybe you cut that in half. Or
That's right.
You may not have to spend that money. It puts the officer, in this case, in a very tough position.
Yeah.
And in some ways, again, he must be held accountable, but the system allowed this to happen, and he just
kind of went there, right? So if we've got a situation here where you could bill for 26 hours worth of work in one 24-hour period, that's amazing to me. And the public,
it sounds like you could logistically do that, but the policy is not supposed to allow that.
That's right.
I want to say, in terms of the Chiefs Overtime Program, which is a well-established program that the APD runs, I have used Chiefs Overtime for special events that I've been involved in. And one of the first things that struck me about this story was the idea that the spokesperson was leaving his duties for Chiefs Overtime.
Right.
If in the middle of my event, the reason that I felt it was necessary to have this extra security, one of the officers just took off, I would be really concerned. And if something happened during that time, I think that there's incredible potential liability there. I mean, it just seems, it seems so odd to me that he was able to do this. What it sounds like is that he could walk out of his overtime work.
That's right.
Put in hours, and there's at least one reporter who has apparently said that a single call for him was a 2-hour chunk in his overtime.
Of overtime, that's right. That's amazing.
Put in that time, but still be considered to have worked the Chiefs overtime. So, I have to say I'm not opposed to officers being paid. I'm not really opposed to officers getting overtime as long as it's within reasonable limits. It doesn't burn them out, make it so that it's too difficult for them to do their jobs. But that double dipping really concerned me.
51 times.
Wait,
let me get over to Didi a quick second.
1 year, from
exactly.
what I understand. In 1 year.
Exactly, right. He also charged for running with the cadets.
Yeah.
That's the one, 26 times. That's the one that really got me. That he could charge the city and taxpayers.
I think that was comp time.
Oh, comp time, right, yeah. That's right. He's got all these categories he could, right.
I'm not an expert on police affairs in the city, but there are a number of questions that this raises. And I was not aware of the fact that police were being hired by Target and Lowe's to provide protection. I question whether that violates the anti-donation clause. I question whether public resources here are being used to subsidize private industry.
Right.
I think that's
Even for a sec, even though the city's making a little money on top of that,
You do
the city
pay for it.
Yeah.
but-
Does that change the equation for you a little bit? Or?
But there is an imprimatur of the police car outside the business
That's right.
and the officer and the badge on
uniform,
duty
that's right.
outside there providing protection. I also wonder if there are other instances of this kind of double dipping, and we don't know the answer to that. There's a focus on this one particular man. We now have 3 different spokespeople for the police department, not only the official police spokesperson, Simon Drobek, but there is Gilbert Gallegos in the mayor's office, Elizabeth Armijo in the mayor's office as well. I just, how widespread is this? I mean, why are there police protecting Target and Lowe's when we have a shortage of police in high crime areas?
That's right.
I mean, that just seems a little.
Don't we have security agencies for these things? You can hire
Well,
security
we used to
people?
have what they called rent-a-cops,
Right,
remember?
right.
And we no longer have that. And so that's why I'm wondering, are public resources being withdrawn from the high crime areas to protect private businesses?
Interesting point there. And Tom, going back to Ed's point here a little bit, there's some reporting that we've got over 125 officers out there, or just about that number, who have made over $100,000 a year. And clearly something needs to be peeled back here to find out why is that. It's the system that Ed mentioned. It's not necessarily, humans will take advantage of whatever's out there. Do you know what I mean? If it's out there, they're going to kind of go for it. Is that your call as well? I mean, we've got a lieutenant here. His boss was like one of the highest paid people in the city as well, Yeah.
I've had the chance to work with Officer Drobek. He's a consummate professional. I've never had any questions that he's not the best person for the job. He does great at what he does. I think what this illustrates is that it's a complex time tracking system. And it's an accounting system that really failed the system, or that allowed users of the system to take advantage
I'm
of
going to
it.
interrupt you there. There is a standard operating procedure, though, that says don't do this.
Okay, then then what are the catches in there? And maybe it's the Citizens Oversight Committee, which I was which I'm a little bit critical of, because I'm thinking, well, why isn't the Inspector General or Internal Affairs picking up these items? And but if there's a policy, nobody's following policy. Well, who's keeping track of the policy? And that's lunacy right there.
Does the AG need to step in here? Is there, or the DA, or does somebody, I don't know what I'm saying here, but someone outside of APD to look at this?
Well, I read a comment that said that the Police Oversight Agency said there's absolutely something to the effect, nothing out there to support that a criminal offense took place here. Right. Well, is there or is there not? Whose call is it? Well, it's the DA's office or the AG's responsibility to determine where there were criminal violations.
Right.
And so maybe so, to Tom's point, maybe the AG or DA's office needs to take a look at the facts of this case.
That's right. So if we're almost out of time, should he be fired, to make a point here? Is this a fireable offense, Mr. Drobek, as the recommendation has?
I think it's interesting that the mayor has said he doesn't get to make that call. I don't get to make that call either. It sounds like it could be heading in that direction, but there is also some skepticism in the community that anything will be done. I mean, there's always longstanding concern that officers, especially leadership, will close ranks. It'll be interesting to see what this newer leadership chooses to do.
Good point there. That's all the time we have for this week, but we're always curious about your thoughts. Drop us a line at NewMexicoInFocus.org or find us on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter.